You walk across the bridge of stone that extends out from the lowest crescent of the city, traversing above the rather large subterranean body of water fed into by the massive waterfalls about a mile out from you on either side. The pathway is about a quarter of a mile wide, as it has been, though there are no railings on the sides, only a short fall into the water just below. In fact, as you look over the side, you realize the water is mere inches away from you and as clear as crystal, but you are still unable to see the bottom. You see large white fish with tiny little black eyes. They somewhat resemble koi fish, though they appear to be almost translucent. The fish seem to vigorously swim to you, but only as your horses trot along, seemingly unable to see you.
Can I toss like some crumbs of a ration in the water as I pass?
Sure. As you pass, you throw in some crumbs and you swarm to it as you see like tens of fish trying to grab the rations. Eventually, you walk across the length of the bridge and find yourself at the base of a long ramp leading upwards and into a rather gargantuan tunnel. On either side of this large tunnel are large statues that appear to lean just over slightly. They appear to be fully armored to the point of not seeing any portion of a person within, simply a massive stone suit of armor on either side of you. You see within their helms light flickering slightly and various figures of what appear to be dwarves canvassing the area with their large eyes. Conversely, you see various dwarves guarding at the feet of these large suits of stone armor. You begin to travel up the ramp and into the tunnel leading out of Kern McCur. The walls are ridged and smooth. Water slowly dripping down its walls and along the ground, leaving grooves of erosion and slick algae where it no longer travels as frequently. You see, lit by large braziers that hang from the vertex of the tunnel, veins of white, black, rust red, and brown minerals all around you, swirling and coalescing into an earthy color palette. It is simple, yet as the cold subterranean air fills your nostrils and the smell of earth coats your senses, you feel for the first time in over a week somewhat at peace. You notice this pathway is also much busier than that of the main road to Kernulem's main gates. Perhaps its closeness to the south and the proximity to Betuis and the wine capitals is the cause. Regardless, you see traveling merchants, vagabonds, and caravans every once in a while briskly travel past you, giving you a curt nod as they do. As you travel, you notice slits in the stone a ways up the sides of the tunnel, crossbows mounted firmly in their rim, with dwarves stoically manning them from within. This persists throughout the entire journey, seeing the slits on either side every 100 feet or so. After about 2 hours, you begin to feel the waft of fresh air upon your face and a large opening bathed in sunlight. You breach the space to find yourself at the mouth of the tunnel upon a flat portion of a hill that overlooks the gargantuan Dragon's Rage canyons. Their forms coursing into the solid stone and soil, bits of light trickling from its depths like fireflies traveling into the night. You feel the chill of the central winds and see the stone of the spine piercing the heavens all around you once more, as the barren ground all around you sits calmly underneath the mountains and the large stone dwarven statues that stand on either side of the tunnel's mouth. So, where would you guys like to go?
The directions he gave us just said up north about 2 days travel, going north into the Kazma Canyon.
Okay,
So
well,
I suppose we go north for about 2 days.
sure. Looks like we follow the canyon. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, you look over the mountain you stand upon that gradually descends upon the Dragon's Rage Canyon below. You find yourself looking upon an exquisitely paved road that winds down the face of the mountain, laid with polished stone and accented by gold and stone railing that lines the entirety of the miles-long pathway down. As you travel down, you see every 50 feet or so a large lantern that sits firmly upon the stone pillars of the stone intermediately built within the stone railings. You traverse down the path for about an hour, listening to the bump of your belongings in your bags and the saddles upon the sides of the draft horses, and the gentle winter breeze that caresses your hair, your armor, and through the nooks and crannies of Clink's bodice.
Bodice.
Eventually, you feel the ground level as you reach the bottom near the canyons, seeing miles away from you, just barely visible, the peaks of the southern range of Astrid. You travel northward for the time being, searching for the trailhead into the slurred pass to begin your hunt for Hector and Bilphus within the spine. The night eventually falls, and you set up camp along the edge of the Dragon's Ridge Canyon, observing the stony beds hundreds of feet beneath you and the small critters that scale quickly, darting behind, cover in the light of stone near where you rest. You continue to travel alongside the canyons, small pebbles flicking out from underneath the cart's wheels. You don't have a cart. Underneath the horse's feet, and into the canyon. You listen as the echoes of their fall mingle with the grinding of small stone beneath your feet and the constant jingle of metal from within all of your belongings. The path is gorgeous. The canyon's majestic, and the wildlife something to behold. You see eagles flying overhead, large bits of bramble holding hibernating mice, and the occasional glimpse of Pterodosia from behind large boulders and outcroppings of stone that litter your path. You continue to search for the entrance to the slurred pass, the second day in, and into the depths of the spine. Any opening into the gargantuan dagger-like formation of the silty black stone that hinder your path to Bilphus and Hector Dollhouse. After about 3 hours more travel, you spot a crack, a small crack in the mountains, and what may be a slightly weathered trail leading to its mouth up a dirt and dead grass-riddled small hill. You approach the crack and find yourself down a barren passage, barely wide enough to fit Clink through, though he might still scrape along the walls in some places. You walk through a very thin pass, angled on both sides at times, forcing you to step strangely upon slanted stone, and claustrophobic given the endless stone all around you and constant fear of collapse of tall stone outcroppings above. You see shrubs and sparse grass growing within the cracks in the stone, and your feet falling upon black gravel that smushes a bit under your feet. This goes on for the majority of the day. Only some sparse pockets of more space for you to rest interrupt the sheer monotony of it. Eventually night comes, and you find yourself sleeping amidst the stone at an angle, with your feet cramping up beneath you, or others opting to sleep much like a hot dog along the grooves of the pass. You begin your travels once more, the wind nowhere to be heard or felt, and the sun but a suggestion in the clear sky seen in a small slit above you. You travel for many more hours during the day, seeing a bit more variety in the flora around you, though you see very little fauna. In fact, it's rather eerily quiet at this point, and leaves you feeling a bit strange. Nonetheless, you continue forward towards your goal, and after a while, the ground seems to level out slightly, and the path seems to widen ever so gradually as time goes on as well. You set up camp a bit more comfortably this night.
Yay.
The gap between the mountains widening slightly as well, giving you a bit more leg room within the pass, and a bit more light as well. You sleep amongst stone bathed in moonlight above. You set out travel for another day, finding more stone and dirt in your path. After a few hours, you see the path widening in what feels to be an open space ahead. As you progress, you cross the threshold into a massive canyon. You see the spine's peaks part in different directions, leaving massive swaths of sky uncovered above you and throughout the entirety of this gargantuan canyon. The canyon's base looks to be overgrown with various bits of greenery, moss, shrubs, roots, and some wildflowers, along with what appear to be small streams of water trickling down the stone walls and down the large crevice of stone that the canyon creates. You see hills of extremely fertile soil covered in the just barely sprouting tendrils of wildflowers and shrubbery that have been dormant for the winter, resting underneath the cold winter sky in between the miles-long peaks of the spine. Tall fir trees also seem to litter the area sparsely, as well as within the canyon, which appears to be about 6 to 7 miles wide, and with at least no end in sight. Pushing through the dry bramble and stepping over the thin streams of water trickling in from the cracks of the spine, breathing in the aroma of winter and the smell of moss upon gently watered stone. Every once in a while the horses stop and drink their fair share of this fresh spring water. Eventually, the night comes. You rest upon a small precipice of soil and stone overlooking this slightly sloped Casmont Canyon. The journey has been arduous thus far and doesn't seem to be giving any sign of letting up. But for the time being, you feel relatively at peace with the nature surrounding you. So you proceed through the canyon, taking in the beauty of nature all around you, and after many hours you notice the incline beginning to level out a bit, though you do notice patches of snow now resting within small batches of dead grass and bramble. You still see relatively little wildlife in the area, however, and by little I mean none. You eventually rear the hill and look upon a mess of razor-like stone formations that stretch before you. The canyon appears to fall back down a bit before leading into an area that looks similar to a box of knives. The soot-black stone of the spine formed in this area as if it were done so by a gargantuan being stabbing the earth with thousands of blades from within the Underdark. Whereas the spine typically consists of a few gargantuan dagger-like spires that look similar to awkward pyramids stretching towards the heavens, this portion looks as if someone stepped upon them, creating a mess of razor-sharp stone that clutters the area. You spend the next 2 hours or so traversing down a slightly precarious path down to the crushed stone before you. And as you gather close to the area, you see their size, stretching thousands of feet in the air, only looking small in comparison to the towering structures all around you that you've grown so accustomed to. The primary difference is how jagged they appear to be and how frequently they appear to be. You see at least 50 times as many peaks jutting out in all different directions. And at your level, you see very little of any path that goes through the mess of stone, as it appears to be very much like a box of glass, in so much as each area appears to be concealed by jagged bits of sharp stone that blocks your sight, along with larger bodies of stone that appear to shoot out amidst the shards of the spine. You manage to find a path that seems to wind through the dagger-like formations and into the shards of the spine. It looks incredibly treacherous. You gingerly step forward into the dusty and treacherous space, contorting your body at times to avoid the piercing bits of stone. Looking above you, you see the sky barely peeking through the many layers of stone that overlap one another. Once inside, fully, you look around to find yourself within a rather dark space surrounded by the razor-sharp shards of stone. The space is far from barren, though. You see flowers and vines wrapping around the stone, bushes bisected and split by the shards, and spurts of grass growing within patches of soil amidst the stone. You decide to push forward a bit, steeling yourself for the tasks that lay ahead. You awake to the deafening silence of the space you currently reside. Accustomed now to the whistle of the breeze, the pattern of the stream, and the gentle rustling of foliage around you now reduced to the chilling stillness of the air around you. The foliage that clings to the jagged stone around you, possibly unmoved for an untold period of time. The air undisturbed for years. Your breath the first in ages. You calm your mind as you pack your belongings to travel once more. You find the travel tedious, slowing due to the ever-present threat of impalement upon the stone. Your eyes darting back and forth and bearing a strange feeling as your mind begins to trail off, imagining them plucked out by the sharp protrusions, imagining that you failed to see a thin bit of stone. Your palms sweat and your back feels heavy, hearing clink crush through the smaller areas, scraping upon most like nails upon a chalkboard, making your head a bit fuzzy. But you continue on. As you look around, you find it difficult to differentiate much of your surroundings, though you do notice snow beginning to fall in between the cracks and crevices of the space around you. Not much fall upon you, as most is caught in the bramble of stone spikes and razors all around and above you, though some does manage to eke through and begins to accumulate upon the edge of the stone shards. So, you guys travel for a few more hours, and you set up camp for the night, finding it even more difficult to find a place to rest this night than the last. Clink finds it difficult to lean against anything to rest while maintaining a sightline. Nasu's tail manages to snag on every sharp surface, and Vivian's large cloak is becoming more and more tattered by the second despite your best efforts. Nonetheless, you set up camp for the night underneath the jagged bits of stone all around you.